Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to go through the process of designing a new banner which is going to act as our backdrop in future YouTube videos. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to Spectre Comics. I'm Mike. If you haven't been here before, consider subscribing to the channel. I do a lot of video tutorials on comic book creation, various types of art projects, and a series of how to draw videos just like this one. Today we're going to design a 6-foot by 4-foot banner which is going to serve as the backdrop for future YouTube videos. I've recently rebranded my channel for Spectre Comics, and I've got about 5 videos in, and looking back on those videos I realized I didn't really love what was behind me. So I thought, let's go through the process of going from sketch to inking to coloring and then actually uploading the video to a printer who can make our backdrop for us. My current backdrop, I have my Comic-Con Artist Alley banner behind me, which is vertical. It doesn't really fill in the space. And then I've got just various trinkets on my little table back here, you know, books and some Star Wars figures and a lava lamp, stuff like that. So this was actually a video that I wanted to complete last weekend, but my banner design was so complex that it took me the better part of a week to finish. I just finished it yesterday. And so what I did was I compiled all the video over the last week of me working on the banner, and I pushed it all together, sped it up, and I'm actually just going to do a voiceover kind of explaining what I'm doing, going from pencils to inks to coloring to compressing everything down into a small file and then uploading it to a printer. So let's get started. So here we are. Starting with a pencil sketch, kind of getting the Spectre Comics logo on the piece of paper. The idea was this is a horizontal banner. It's going to be 6 foot by 4 foot, and I wanted to get the logo, which would be visible behind me in the shot, so it would be kind of low, not towards the top, but kind of more in the middle, upper to middle portion of the page, and then all the characters would kind of be in an action pose behind. And I thought that would be a really cool, fun display behind me. So I start out just by sketching the characters, getting them kind of in an action pose. Now this is not the final design. This is just more or less to kind of get the characters on the page, kind of see how they all interact with each other, their proximity to one another. I ended up moving them all around. The proportion of the banner's longer than this sheet of paper, so I wasn't able to get them all on here horizontally. But the idea was that once I ink in Photoshop, I can start moving them around. Here's the Spectre logo that I already have pre-made in Photoshop, as well as the star nebula background that I use as the background. So I turn those layers off, and now we're just going to start inking the characters. Normally what I like to do is I ink each character on its own layer. That way I can kind of move them around and I don't have breaks. You know, if there's a character in the foreground and, you know, let's say Spark's in the foreground and Prox's arm goes kind of behind them, if I end up moving them around, I don't want there to be a break in the arm where I'd have to fill that in later. I'll just use screens to kind of hide the rest of the arm, and that way as I move them around, because I tended to move them around a lot in here just to kind of get them where I wanted and make sure that they were visible, it just gave me the ability to make adjustments without having to redraw anything. Plus, if I ever want to isolate these characters for a separate piece of art, I have the full character drawn already. So here's Prox. I used the Ellipse Tool to get his head and his shoulders filled in. It's too hard to draw a really perfect ellipse on the inking tablet. Right now, I'm just being really sketchy with the characters. You know, the nice thing about when I draw in Photoshop is I can kind of get the lines kind of marked out. Even though there's a pencil sketch behind it, I can get it a little more accurate, and then I can just kind of get really sketchy lines, and then what I tend to do is I shave them down with the erase tool. Here we're filling in Risa, just getting her pose inked out. Another thing that I like to do, or that I'm able to do, is if something needs to be just slightly moved, I can kind of isolate that item and just move it. For instance, the arm here was slightly to the right, so I wanted to kind of move that in. You also notice that I turned off the layer Spark was on so that I could draw Risa without all these black lines kind of in the way. So that's the nice thing. You can turn them, you can make them visible or non-visible, and then that way you can just isolate the drawing and draw that. But then you can see the whole thing as a layout, turn it back on, you can kind of see where everybody's laying out. So here I am, I'm just kind of cleaning up the drawings. I used my pencil sketch as kind of a guide. I did some inking over it. Now we're just really cleaning up the lines. And then what I like to do is I like to create a white layer behind each character, behind their layer. And then that way I could just kind of put white in the background. And now as it's filled in, you can see that it hides what's behind. But the character is still fully drawn behind there. But now that the white screening is hidden. So I use Lithos as my font for Spectre, for the comics part of Spectre Comics. And here I am just spacing out the font. I decided later I wanted to add this character into the groups. This is Arco. He's not really a member of the team, but he's in my current comic as a character, and I like him so much that I wanted to put him as part of this banner. I drew him in later and kind of tried to fit him in. Now we're getting into the coloring. I'm using the polygonal marquee tool to kind of outline the area and fill in with the paint bucket. And I pulled up this old cover that I did for issue number 4 of my comics. What I like to do is I use the eyedropper tool to kind of select the color. That way I'm consistent from art piece to art piece on the color of their jackets, their skin, their trim. Anything that I draw consistently, I don't have color settings kind of defined for that, so I just pull up an old drawing and then I go ahead and use the eyedropper tool to get the color selected, and then I just fill it in on a layer. So the robots have shiny metal for their exterior, and I use the gradient tool to kind of create the shine. So as we're going through the coloring process here, the light source is coming from the right side, upper right. So any shadows and shades and shine on the metal pieces, will kind of keep that in mind as we're kind of shading now. We're shading Arco's pants. I use the marquee again, the polygonal marquee, to kind of define an area. That way I can do some broad cleanup without affecting other areas which are completed. Just putting shadow on all the characters. So again, the light's coming from the right, so there'll be shadow on the left side of each character. And what I do for the color for shadow is I don't just pick like black and use a more transparent black. What I do is I actually select the color, and then I select a darker version of the color in my color selector. That way the color is related to the color that I'm shading. For instance, the shade on the blue jacket is actually a darker blue, and then I use the brush tool, both the brush tool and the brush eraser, to kind of smooth out the gradient. The last thing I did once the page was done was I wanted to add my social media information to the banner. If this banner, what I'll end up doing is actually using this banner at like Comic-Con, and so I wanted to have all my information on there. So the Spectre Comics website, and then the YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, and my Twitter handle. So now that we have this completed image, we're going to go ahead and upload this to VistaPrint. VistaPrint's a printer that I've used for various things, including t-shirts, mugs. This mug behind me was made by VistaPrint, and I got an email with a promo code for a discount on banners. So I clicked the link in my email, went right to the VistaPrint page. I've already got an account set up with them. It says here the promo code has been applied, so that's nice. And then I just go through and I start selecting the information that's relevant to my banner. So it's a horizontal, it's 4x6. It's going to be used for indoor purposes. I'd like the grommets in there so I can hang it easily. I don't need any reinforcement. And you can see it tallies the cost below, as well as shows the discount. We're going to go ahead and upload it. So I've already created the design, the banner we just created. So we're going to just go ahead and upload the design by adding an image from our computer. Selecting the image. Now make sure your image is less than 38 megabytes. If it's larger than that, it won't upload. It also shows the safety lines here. Tells me my resolution looks great. So we're at 300 dpi on our file. I wanted to make sure that the grommet holes are shown on this, and you can see that all of, everything I want visible is within the dotted line, and the grommet locations don't go over any text, so that's nice. This just gives you a little view on what the banner would look like with a person standing next to it. So I've reviewed everything. Everything looks great. I'm going to go over to next. Now, one thing VistaPrint does, which is kind of annoying sometimes, is that they really try to upsell you on other products, t-shirts and mugs and mouse pads. Haven't used a mouse pad in about 20 years, but they got them. And, I don't need any of this extra stuff, so I'm just going to stick with the banner and go ahead and click next. And again, VistaPrint's the king of upselling, but if you don't need anything else, just go ahead and keep clicking next till you get to the checkout page. So I'm going to check here, just check my order, make sure my promo code has been applied, which it has. And I'm going to go ahead and get to the checkout section. It's got because I already have an account, it's already got my address, which I've blurred out here. I don't need this in any hurry, so I'm going to go with the cheapest shipping. So once I add my credit card information and go through the whole checkout process, an email will be sent to my email account. It'll be a summary of my order. It'll have a link to track the package. I would just hold on to this email until my order arrives, just in case something happens. And that's it. Pretty easy. So there you have it. We went through our complete banner design process, starting with a quick pencil sketch, getting our logo and our characters on a sheet of paper, scanning that sheet of paper into Photoshop, using Photoshop to do some overall layout and design, doing some inking, some coloring, saving that file down to a JPEG, which we can then upload to VistaPrint. We send our order off. Hopefully in the next 6 to 10 days, our order will arrive. We'll get it up on the wall and see how the backdrop looks in future videos. If you liked the video and thought it was helpful, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you want more videos just like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. Just links to my Spectre Comics website, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram will be linked in the description below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time. Thanks.